how to dowse to find missing people. But no matter what I did, the guy just, he couldn't figure it out. It is a process. It's really actually quite easy. And I even tried to show him some of my tricks of the trade from doing the work, and he just couldn't absorb it. I don't know why. He said he just couldn't comprehend it. And you also have to master some of the dowsing techniques. And some people just are fascinated by it, but they can't take the next step. And that's okay too. It's like a good psychic is a good psychic. And, maybe you're just good at healing, or maybe you're just good at visions or remote dowsing, remote viewing. It's a crazy field. It's a very weird field. That's why it's called the paranormal.
I will agree
Abnormal.
with that.
Mm-hmm.
I see that a lot. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
different gifts that just kind of show up in places.
Well, I am multi-talented, but I stick with what I know. If people call me and say, "Hey, how about this?" For example, I team with Peter Marks, who's an astrologer, and I tell people, "Call me. I'll give you his number." And I do not do astrology. And if you want to double check my work, go to Peter. And Peter's in Connecticut, excellent astrologer. But guess what? He's also psychic. So he combines the two, and his answers are excellent. And he's one of my little team members, and it's phenomenal. I work with Angela Ford sometimes, and she is a locator like I am. And she's in Maryland. And if I can't do the job, I say, "Hey, call Angela." Or if I can't do a reading, I say, "Call Angela." There's a woman in Georgia. Sometimes I give out her name, Kathy Burrows. She's a psychic medium. I'm a psychic medium, but I'm not always available. And so I have to count on very, very strong people to follow through. Now, um, we have worked on treasure. We've worked on large scale missing person cases like Matra de Mayo, which was really interesting. But when people call me and say, for example, "Oh, do you know a person to do a painting?" Who are you going to call? You call the painter. You don't, so that's why I tell people, call the astrologer or call me and I'll give you the astrologer's number. You want the expert. You don't want the beginner who's just doing healing. And I'm very adamant about that. I tell people, listen, you want to try beginner, you're going to get beginner descriptions. You're going to get the basics. You're not going to get what you want to solve a case. Um,
Well, because there's a
but
lot involved in that. I mean, I know
mhm,
that a lot of psychics develop their own ways of communication with spirit. I don't know
mhm.
if that's what you do too, but things such as symbols and signs mean certain things to them when they're with their spirit guides. Do you have that happen in your line too?
Well, I'm very lucky because I had three near-death experiences. So what happened to me was that I don't stick with the same guide. I don't call them guides. I just call it the universe or, they're saying. And I was just interviewed recently, and people ask me, "Why are you saying we?" Well, I guess we're a collective unit, and I have a team, so I'll tell people right away, "Oh, my team," I can't say, "Oh, my team says this or my team says that." So I just say, "Oh, go call Peter." Peter Marks, the astrologer. "Oh, go call Angela." So we think this. So typically I go for the throat. As I mentioned earlier, I'm black and white with my work. Somebody called recently, is my brother deceased or alive? So I'll have to say, look, and I charge fees. There are times when I do charitable work, and there are times when I just cannot do it. My
Right?
plate is too full, and I'll say, well, listen, let's iron out: is he dead or alive? And then if he's deceased, let me give you the radius of where to search. And then I take it even further and say, you need to park here, or you need to start the search here, or you need canine, or you're looking for the well. So you can go to the county. I did a case one time. It was really fascinating. And I said, "Oh my gosh, she was hanging around bikers and they killed her and threw her in a well." And the family's like, "No, she's got to be alive." 7 years later, she was found, and bikers had thrown her in a well because some guy was, how somebody gets arrested and squeals, and she was thrown in a well by the bikers, and they had thrown some stuff in the well with her that proved that she was with the bikers.
Ah,
How they, with their colors or leather jacket or whatever. It was so funny. But unfortunately, we have a consistency when you do commit murder, somebody's going to squeal. So that's 50% of the case closure. And then you're going to have 25% where you have to solve it with people involved. And then you have the last 25% that stay cold case. And sometimes I get a call, I just got a call recently. In the last 2 years, I get these calls on cold cases, 35 years old. And recently I took him to an area and the cops were really happy because they said, you know what, we've been working on this for 35 years and not once have our dogs alerted, not once. And this is the first time they've ever alerted. And a friend of mine is a canine specialist. So I tell people you either need a metal detector, a canine specialist, or you need sometimes a backhoe. And every case is different. I mean, like the Anthony case, um, my situation got out of hand because when I took the PI to the site, for example, um, he didn't want to move forward. He said he had snakes crawling on his feet or legs, and I do understand Florida has some very dangerous, poisonous snakes. So I said, if you don't move forward and go to the media and tell them you found an area where I took you, and I just said it blatantly, I'm going to go ahead and make a phone call. And he said, what? And it was like 2 or 3 days later. I said, you need to move forward. Tell the media you think she's right here because I took you right there. And the only reason I know it is if I'm one of those people, if let's say you go to the grocery store and you're buying your Nutella. Who doesn't love Nutella? And I said, oh, I found it. Nutella's close to the bottom of the shelving, but should be on the top. It's over. It's over
But
near
people who
peanut
love
butter.
it will bend over to look.
There you go. And I bend over. So what am I doing? I'm looking and looking and looking, and then it's over near the peanut butter. But here's the thing: I called Fox or NBC, and I said, I'm so and so, and I'm a well-known psychic, and I was talking to Dominic Casey, and I told him where the body was. He was there. I gave all the details, and I said he needs to call you and tell you that we suspect there's a body there because he had seen some bones or something odd, suspicious, and he had never called. He had never called in all that time. And so I was truly frustrated. I was thinking the public needs closure on this crap.
Well, did he
And
not tell the police?
no,
He
he didn't
just
call
kept
anybody.
that?
Correct. And
Wow.
he had his friend videotape it. I had given him the name of the street, Suburban. And then the other conflict was so many psychics were involved. A couple other psychics came out of the woodwork saying they gave me the information. And I said, well, if they gave me the information, where is she? Huh? And I said, secondly, I've done 20. How many have you done? This is their first one they've actually located. And they just happened to be working on another case I was doing in Maryland, which was really interesting. And I was on the money on that one too with Luke Phillips. And so what I'm saying is sometimes you have instigators on a case. So some family members really need to be careful who they pull in. And then sometimes you have psychics who are like, oh no, they claim that they did it. You know what? I didn't moan and complain. I just walked away because nobody could call me to get my opinion, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Right.
But right now, I'm doing a whole year of teaching how to find missing objects because that's what I do. I find missing objects and treasure and that kind of thing. But
Well,
I
the
do want
treasure
people.
thing is neat too. But go ahead. I'm sorry. You do
Mhm.
want people to what?
Yeah, I do want people to know that the reason the case came to a closure was because I forced it. I called the press and I said, "Listen, she's right there. You cannot miss it." I mean, I said he went to site, he videotaped it. I guess you call it videotaped. He had the friend come out that was a PI, and he videotaped it, and he has the videotape. And then what was so sad was that I said a bunch of stuff about selling it to the press. I said, you can sell it if you want to sell it to the press. I mean, you haven't been paid for your work, so there's nothing wrong with selling it to the press. They have funding for it. Go ahead and do it. They said I said the baby was taken to South America.
To
Never
South
said that.
America.
Oh yeah, they came up with all sorts of stories. They were doing an ongoing guinea pig runway of, you know how the guinea pig runs on the treadmill around and around and around,
Yeah.
and
And
it
then
was a,
flops out.
oh my God, yeah,
Yeah.
and it was just an ongoing saga, and I was like, this is crazy.
That
We've got
is
too many,
crazy.
yeah, we've got too many cases that are critical and that really need attention, like Holly Bobo, who did not get the attention,
Well,
and
that's what's so bad. The media will
mm,
focus, based on the sympathy quotient of the victim.
mhm,
And
mhm,
that gets
drama,
frustrating. Yes, it gets
the
frustrating
drama.
when you're the public who is concerned, and if you feel like, well, this needs to this needs to have help. And I can only imagine what an investigator feels, especially at the beginning when time is of the essence.
Right. Well, I'll just share this with you. I was never involved with the police, but later, because NBC had interviewed me up in DC, because I'm from the DC area, NBC used to call me all the time about missing kids all the time. And I did a lot of interviews, and it was really interesting. NBC down there treated me really nice, whereas Fox flip-flopped back and forth and back and forth. Oh, Ginette does this, Ginette does that. That wasn't true. They just went ahead and kept feeding media info because they were speculating, and they were pulling other people into stories that were not true. And I thought, oh my God, they're just doing filler. And so I
Some
just,
things are too important to be just filler.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure a lot of families with missing loved ones are just frustrated. But back to the cop I was talking to, Detective Allen called me and said, "Why didn't you call me?" I said, "What? You're going to pick up the phone and I'm the 2,319th psychic that calls you? You're going to listen to me?" "Well, you could have told me who you were." I said, "Listen, I worked on a case in Baltimore. They took the information and trashed it and laughed at me." I said, and it utterly astounds me. I said, you can laugh all you want, but if I feel certain of a location, I'm going to give you the location. Get it over with. Get in, get out, get it done. Let's move on to the next one. And, so the family can have closure, so they can have burial or do whatever they feel they're comfortable with.
Right. Well, do you get to speak with the families when you're working on a forensic case like that? Do you get involved with the families, or do you tend to steer clear of that?
It's a 50-50 shot. I've never spoken to Cindy. Uh, Anthony, I've never spoken to the father. My preference was to talk to Cindy. They kept saying yes because I came to Florida for a vacation, but I came to the East Coast, not to Orlando. And I said, listen, if I come down, why don't you guys come on over to where I am? And he goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Never showed up, never called, never followed through. And I said, there's your clue.
Yeah.
This is just a part of life. On Never talked to Casey, never talked to her brother, not introduced to anybody. It was almost like the little circle of we're in this water with sharks in it. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting on the side watching and thinking, this is ridiculous. For
Well,
example, when I got the teddy bear, they blew it out of proportion. Okay, I got the teddy bear. I told him it was the same location. I gave very, very specific locations. I was on the phone with him, which I had to prove. And in a way, thank God for Nancy Grace, because I had to give her proof that I was on the phone with the PI.
yeah.
And I said, listen, Virginia is in a paperless society with cell phones, telephones, and it takes 2 weeks to get the record. So I can prove it, but I'm not there at my father's house. He's 4 hours from me, and I'm not driving up there tonight. I had
Well, I
two
don't blame
little
you, but you know
kids.
what? We are actually 2 minutes past our break. So
Okay,
we are going to go. This is a little 2 minute break, and we will be right back.
perfect.